Am I the a-hole for CCing all family, friends, and coworkers after my husband divorced me via email? I 47F woke up yesterday morning to an email from my husband 50M of 21 years entitled, Working Things Out. Very deceptive title because instead of arranging a meeting or even a phone call, my husband goes on a 4-paragraph soapbox speech about how marriage is supposed to be, for the most part, an in-person commitment, and that it pains him to say this, but this cannot go on anymore. He goes on in a very clinical detached tone to describe how us not speaking for a week before our big fight and then not hearing from me for the week afterwards is abandonment for him, so he's filing for divorce. He then asked me to tell me what things of mine I wanted him to ship and that he wants to do things fairly via mediation. Also said he'd only be responding to calls regarding our daughter and to contact his lawyer for everything else. For a little context, I moved with my daughter 16F from Kentucky to Atlanta 3 years ago because she wants to get into acting and singing. She's now attending a performing arts high school and trying to make a living acting. My husband was supportive at first. He sent in 60 applications to jobs in Atlanta, but even though he's been a manager at a motel for 13 years here, he only got entry-level interviews. My husband initially said there's FaceTime and he has airline points. But soon I saw how inflexible he was. Every conversation was unbearable because if I picked his brain, I knew I'd be running into a brick wall. Instead of learning to enjoy long distance, it was like,
fulfilling marriage equals long distance. Nope.
He asked us to move back during the actors' strike. At that time, we had already agreed he could have fun time with others as long as he fulfilled his other obligations. He agreed to our arrangement but dumped the woman after a month and got more petty, saying the women he wants wouldn't be into married men. Our final fight was over when I said we were going to have a virtual Thanksgiving with my mom and wished for her recovery from her surgery. He said,
"Why don't you come back and tell her in person?"
He also said instead of me giving input for Christmas decorations over the phone, he chimed to come back and do it in person instead. He said he had more intimacy with the escort than me because it was in person, and I called him a hospitality manager stereotype, unable to adapt to any change and stuck in his path. The fury boiled over after his email, and I replied and CC'd the extended family, friends who only hear from him and his side, and his coworker and friend of the family, just to tell them that the man who says he's the peacemaker is divorcing me over email, and that he's been seeing other women and saying that his 1-month fling with an escort was more fulfilling. My only regret is that a friend's kid got a hold of the email and I've had to shield my daughter and explain that her dad is divorcing me. Am I the a-hole?
Here are the top comments.
You abandoned your marriage to be a stage mom 3 years ago. Agreed he could see other women after you did that. And now you're trying to shame him publicly for finally throwing in the towel? You're the a-hole. I'm sure he'd be happy to divorce you in person, only you aren't even going home for Christmas, so.
You're the a-hole for a million reasons, the least of which is abandoning your husband because your 13-year-old wants to act, and misleading your friends and family into thinking he cheated on you. It doesn't even sound like you want to be married, other than the fact that he pays the bills.
You're the a-hole. I mean, to be fair, you won't go see him in person. It was either going to be email or a phone call. His lawyer is probably advising him to get everything in writing, in case you do something crazy, and you just obliged him.
Yes, you are. That was entirely inappropriate to involve others in a very sensitive and difficult moment. You have a right to be upset. But involving others makes you look petty and was even worse response to what was already a classless email. Given both of your reactions, it's probably best that this marriage end. Find a way to do it in a way that minimizes the collateral damage.